Tonight is the first presidential debate of the 2024 United States election. Biden and Trump's face-off will mark the start of a race that should be as close as it will be chaotic. But I want to skip all that drawn-out drama. I want to know who will win now. So to do this, I turn to the familiarity of the sporting world. We all like those crazy sports correlations, like every time the Phillies win the World Series, a recession happens. Now, most just write these off as coincidences. But when a pattern continues to happen again and again, maybe, just maybe, there's actually something to it. So I went out correlation hunting, and I found some pretty interesting results. I discovered patterns in each of the big four sports that will hopefully help predict the upcoming 2024 election. And not just for the presidential race, I found connections that will unveil who will control the Senate and the House of Representatives. But of course, Biden and Trump is the main card event. And I uncovered a correlation that should show who will win this fight before the first bell is even run. So let's get into it. So first, let's see who will control the House of Representatives. The lower chamber only has 2-year terms instead of the presidential 4, so it was a little tricky to find something that worked for so many elections, but I did find a correlation. Every time the Boston Celtics win an NBA championship, the Democrats gain a majority in the House come the next election. Yes, every one of Boston's NBA leading past 17 championships ushered in an era of Dem control. The pattern honestly works eerily well. In the years of Boston's dominance of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so too did the Democrats dominate the House. And then in the 90s, when Michael Jordan took over, the Republicans did the same thing. But the correlation didn't stop there. When the Big Three returned Boston to glory in 2008, who else re-won the House but the Democrats? In recent years, this connection seems to be even stronger. In 2010 and in 2022, when the Celtics made the finals but lost, the Dems ended up losing control of the House come November both times. But of course, this year, the Celtics have finally won it all again. So, if this pattern holds true after banner 18, it will be the Democrats shouting out "We did it" come November. Next, I'll predict the Senate, which was honestly the hardest one to do. Having staggered 6-year term limits with elections every 2 years creates a weird pattern of flip-flopping periods of control, so it was pretty difficult to find something that connected. And by pretty difficult, I mean that I spent hours and hours going through lists of champions, first overall picks, even every rookie of the month, to try to find some pattern. After all that, I found one. It's not particularly strong, but at least it works. Every year before an election, which since Senate elections are every 2 years, it basically means every odd year, if a state without an income tax wins the World Series, the Republicans control the Senate in the next election. Again, this isn't that damning of a connection. Florida and Texas are the only states who have MLB teams and no income tax, but it at least is true, and it gives Republicans an extra reason to like low-tax states. The Marlins won the World Series in 1997 and in 2003, and the Astros, not counting their 2022 win, of course because we're just talking about odd years, won in 2017. In the election the next year, the Republicans won the Senate each time. Of course, the 2023 Texas Rangers added their name to this list last year. So this correlation dictates that the Republicans will regain control of the Senate. Before we get to the entire presidential election, it is worth just focusing on one state's voting habits: Florida's. Florida is notorious for its electoral importance. With a large politically swinging population, the Sunshine State has always been a crucial political battleground come election time. No better example of this is of course the Al Gore-George W. Bush election of 2000, where Florida's votes were put under a microscope for months to decide who gets the state's electoral votes, and in turn win the entire election. But you can watch a Mr. Beat video to learn more about that past. I want to talk about the future. For that, we turn to the NHL and the Stanley Cup. This one is fairly simple. In an election year, if a team from the West wins Lord Stanley, the Democrats' nominee wins Florida. If the East wins, the Republican nom gets the Sunshine State's electoral votes. This pattern holds true for every election since the NHL changed to geographical conference names back in 1994, which, side note, I think was a stupid decision. I know Gary Bettman did it to help new fans understand the league better, but the Prince of Wales and Clarence Campbell conferences just has a buttery sound to it. Plus, Detroit was in the Western Conference until 2013, and Chicago still plays in the West, so it's not like geographical accuracy is at the top of the NHL's mind. But anyways, since the name changes, this correlation has proven true for all the past 7 elections. So what about this year? Who else but the Florida Panthers of the Eastern Conference lifted the cup, which should mean that the GOP's Donald Trump will win Florida this election. Finally, let's see who wins this title fight. For that, we fittingly turn to America's most popular event, the Super Bowl. But to predict a winner between Trump and Biden, we must look at the losers of the big game. In an election year, the losing team in the Super Bowl state, as in the state the team plays in, always votes for the winner of the presidential election. For example, the Buffalo Bills lost the Super Bowl in 1992. In November of that year, New York was won by Bill Clinton, who of course also won the presidency. The Carolina Panthers lost in 2016. North Carolina voted for that election's winner, Donald Trump. Tennessee voted Bush in 2000, Texas went with Jimmy Carter in '76, the list goes on and on. Now, it's important to highlight the word state here. In 1984, Washington lost the Super Bowl, but voted for the Democratic Walter Mondale instead of Ronald Reagan. Interestingly, being only one of 2 places not to vote for Reagan in that election. But since DC is a district instead of a state, the correlation I found still holds true for every single election in the Super Bowl era, which I think is quite remarkable. So making the final prediction, the San Francisco 49ers lost the Super Bowl this year, meaning that whoever wins California will become president. With California being a practical lock for Joe Biden, according to all major forecasters, with a lead of nearly 20%, it seems like it will be Biden who will get 4 more years. So there you have it. According to the patterns I found, Joe Biden will be the 2024 presidential election winner, with his Democrats also controlling the House, while the Republicans get a consolation prize with control of the Senate. Of course, it should be said that this whole thing is more just for fun rather than an actual tool for political or sporting analysis. I mostly did this just to challenge myself to find some correlations, but at least hopefully I provided some form of a political and or sporting history lesson. If you want to see my research applied to something with a little more athletic insight, you can watch my video on using stats to find the unluckiest NBA team. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and even subscribe. Let me know what your favorite fun correlation is. And of course, since politics were involved in the making of this video, please keep any political talk civil. See you next time.